When you're really hamstrung by a budget problem, then the output problem is also a problem. Every business works in a resource-restrained environment. He was like, why is nothing getting done?
It's like sometimes they have to go get burned before they'll listen.
Be ruthless in your requirement and scoping, like be a good buyer. He comes over to my desk and he asks, I want to build like a brochure website and have these things. It's like, how long would that take? Dude, I'm not a developer. I'm not a designer. I'm not a copywriter. I'm not a photographer. Like, I don't know.
She was like, what do you think it'll cost, though? I said, I have absolutely no idea.
Oh, the instant quote. Even internally, you have a meeting. Hey, Jack, thanks for the meeting about blah, blah, blah. As agreed, we will do this. You know, just so you got the old CYA, cover your ass memorandum in paper trail.
And she said, well, if you can't give me a number, don't see the point in having another conversation. If you can't have another conversation, I can't give you a number.
G'day. Welcome.
Oh, you're going to...
Well, you said be the co-host.
Yes, be the co-host. Go for it.
Welcome to another episode of the Push Podcast. I'm Ben Reeves. You're Jack Ferguson.
That's right.
Pleasure chatting with you today, Jack. We've got an exciting episode ahead.
We do.
We're talking about scope creep.
Yes.
And instant quotes / scopes. So,
Well done, mate. That was good.
Thank you.
Yeah. Instant. Did you come up with that on the spot?
Yeah.
Nicely done.
Thanks. That was an instant quote. Quotable.
Oh, jeez. We're going meta now.
Oh. And we're not talking about Facebook ads.
We're definitely not filming this late at night, so let's not be delirious.
Yeah, so this is a good episode. This is one for all the marketers or consultants out there who have ever worked on a project or a task, and from what it was originally planned has grown well beyond that or creeping towards that. You know, we're talking
Which
about...
never happens, but anyway.
No, we're talking about incrementally or just even... Exponentially in many counts. And, you know, I've worked in digital agencies and building websites. And, you know, this typically does happen when it comes to like a website or a marketing project as well, especially with the more technical like implementation and, hey, we just want to have this feature. So, yeah, we're going to get into this one. Do you want to start or...
I don't.
Oh, great. I've got one. So this one's for anyone who's ever done like a website build, or even if you haven't, right? So a bit of context around this. This is when I was working at a large e-commerce agency, and one of the clients was a large national retailer, and I was on the team of, so once the project, so to be clear, there's two parts of a project. There was the initial phase, which is building everything from scratch, which, you know, this project had been scoped. It had been the requirements really, really tight. Hey, based on your needs of having these stores all around Australia, you need, when someone lands on your website, you need to direct the person who buys the thing on the website to their local store. The product that they sold was super heavy. It wasn't something you get delivered to your door. Maybe as a sample pack or something, but definitely not like if you're renovating your house with these products, you would definitely want to go to a store, have it delivered. With that in mind, there was two components. One, the project part. What really happens in the scoping of a project is just really requirement gathering, understanding what are the needs, what are the outcomes at the end of this project, what functionality do you want to have on your, this website in particular. The couple key things that happened on this is it was the platform that they had built on was fairly complicated and like needed technical work always. The cost of running this and rightfully so, because it was fairly complex integration. It needed to route orders and then also be able to take customer orders based on like the square meterage and weight. Anyone who's ever worked in e-commerce, it was built on Magento, and just for context, it's not unless you have a technical team, it requires, you need to get those skills somewhere. The head of marketing had severely underestimated how much, not underestimated, it was scoped that, hey, in order to maintain this site, like just bare minimum, any bugs that happen, when updates get pushed and you need to fix those bugs, it probably requires baseline a month, probably like, let's just allow 50 hours. That's very conservative, just for bug fixes and maintenance and updates, right? That's 50 hours there. We had scoped 100 hours to also, if you want additional features, so stuff that, you want to add new things, update pages or something, like you need another probably 50 hours depending on that. And that's, development resources, project management resources, design, quality assurance. There's a lot of things that go into that maintaining of that work. So what had happened is, the business had just been bought by another company, and they were looking to optimize cost. And what they were looking at is the forecast, or the head of marketing hadn't forecasted or hadn't put in the budget. They go, cool, we've just built this new website. It's going to be X amount of money, but didn't really factor in the ongoing, the retained project cost to maintain the site. It had been clearly stated at every point before the project, during the project, after the project. And now I was 6 months when I started this job. It was, or they got this client, it was 6 months in, and we had a 100-hour retainer. And in the following month, when it was like, cool, we've got, we had a backlog of, maybe I'd say 300 hours worth of backlog. But what would happen is he wanted to reduce it to 30 hours a month. Right, so I'm talking 30 because the parent company just bought it out, and he was going, I'm spending all this money on, just to keep the lights on, just stuff, and there was stuff that was breaking on the website as updates get pushed. We advised against that, said, hey, this is not going to work. And what happened is anything that needed to be updated had a task associated. We'd always get an estimate to go, cool, how long will that take? And so we could obviously manage the time and how much hours is against that. Full transparency with the client about every step of what task, how much everything takes. And so when we'd estimate a task, one task maybe take 10 hours, right? So that's 1/3 of the 30-hour budget already gone to one task. Now, what would happen is we would have scheduled tasks for the month, and we go, okay, we've only got 30 hours to plan with now. We should have 100 hours to just get through, 50 hours just to get through maintenance, another 50 hours for that. So let's just say, depending on the size of the task, it takes, some tasks could take 40 hours if it's a big integration or something, right? We'd reduce it to 30 hours. And what was happening was tasks were either partially complete but couldn't be finished because a bug, like a priority one bug would happen. So for those playing at home, like a customer can't check out, or it's impacting sales directly. That would happen, may have happened during the week or whatever. That would get bumped to top priority. All resources would be allocated towards that, which meant that anything that was previously scheduled or planned can no longer be done. And what was frustrating and doing my head in was the scope around, or the expectation that the task should just be instantly fixed. Like, oh, it's a P1, it's a bug, it should just be fixed, and you should do it within the time that it allocated. I would have a fortnightly catch-up. I would have a list of maybe, I'd say, 20 like tasks, maybe 5 that were priority and 10 that were kind of like ongoing, needed some fixes or maintenance. He was like, why is nothing getting done? And I said, well, 5 hours was spent here. This was scoped up to be 15. This bug came in here at 10. There's your time already gone, right? And then some. And then when we charge, say overages, we do go, hey, this month we actually worked 50 hours on your account. He would be so upset, even though like at 2 checkpoints had been like, hey, we're going to go over, and I give him the option. We go, hey, we're going to go over this month, or we don't deliver, or we don't charge any, or we can wait till next month before we start work. That's how we'd be very strict. The one thing about this agency, we were very strict around the hours management because we needed to be. We need to manage our resources, right?
Yeah. Well, that's your model as well, right? If you're selling hours.
Totally, absolutely. Yeah. It's like the resource management, and if we have guaranteed hours, we can put guaranteed resources on that project. And if you have less hours, then it's harder to manage. But that was one of the things where the scope had, which should have been 100 hours just to maintain, was nothing. And what was interesting is the client was so frustrated about stuff not getting done, where it was a pure case of educating the client, recommending against it, going against recommendations, and then being frustrated when it wasn't working out. Nothing was getting done. You know that triangle where it's like you choose speed, quality, and what's the third one?
Like price.
Price, yeah. So it's like, he wanted the cheapest price.
Yeah.
He wanted the fastest delivery, and he wanted it like, you know what I mean? Like he wanted
quality.
Quality. He wanted all those things done, and it just was not feasible.
So when you said here's where it got allocated, what did he say?
He saw where it got allocated, and he was upset that there was stuff that literally had been, because the backlog was so long. So like, let's say I had those priority tasks. So there's probably about 100 hours of work, 150 hours of just work to be done on the existing tickets that we had scoped and estimated, right? And what had happened was, because a bug had come in, or a new request had come in that took precedence over something that had more time allocated to it, it wasn't possible to close them out. So he was getting frustrated that he goes, we get to 2 months into this 30-hour arrangement, and he's like, why is this bug from 3 months ago still here? And it's like, well, here's the logs, here's everything that's happened, because we can't get to it. We don't have time. You don't have sufficient budget credit to do that. You can pay now and you can get it done. But you don't want to.
And what was the response?
Didn't want to pay for those hours.
So I don't want to pay, but I'm annoyed that it didn't happen.
Correct, yeah. Because what would happen is one of his team or one of their retailers would go, oh, this isn't working on the thing. And it's like, what do you want me to prioritize? So he was kind of frustrated about that situation. And he was in a rock and a hard place. New owners came in. He had to make sure that the budget was forecasted. He was feeling his neck a bit because he wasn't obviously managing up well enough to go, hey, actually, the website that we have, we actually need to invest more money in order to make it happen, and they don't have the technical team to do that, right? And they never built it that way. That was the intent from them to have it out managed. And it's one of those things where everything you do, get in writing, always, right? And just have clear processes. That was one of the things that was probably the saving grace, I think, is around, hey, we're just very transparent about how we operate and how we work, and this is what it is. Yeah, that's kind of one of my scope creep stories. But yeah, that was one of the places where it was like any extra hours we did do, we charged for, rightfully so. Time is valuable, and the client didn't want that. So we go, okay, as soon as we get to 70% of this retainer work, we will tell you, hey, heads up, what do you want us to stop, continue, or cease until next month?
So how did that story end?
The client actually ended up going to a cheaper development partner, and a part of that process was they had to then we had to do hours to build out to do the handover process to this new agency as well. I don't know what happened after that. So we handed over that client. Maybe I probably worked with them for another 6 months after that, and then they found a cheaper agency to do it. And then I believe that they actually went back to the agency that I worked for, funnily enough. All that.
After you stopped working for
Oh, no, not after I stopped.
Not because of you. I'm not saying because of you, but isn't it ironic?
I think it makes sense to if the team that builds it or has all the inside knowledge around, and this is one of the things where documentation is super important. And the site was built that way in a particular and on that tech stack for the reason. And in any projects, I have fundamental design principles around be ruthless in your requirement and scoping. Be a good buyer. I work in house now. Is how do we be the best informed buyer for our media partner, our technology partners? Is have conversations, document internal stakeholder requirements, understand the best in class technology that you need to build on, and or what outcomes you're looking to achieve, and do that.
I think there's something interesting in your case there though too, that as you were talking about it, I'm thinking they go back to the agency that you were working for. And it's sometimes they have to go get burned before they'll listen. So because you're educating and telling them all this stuff, it doesn't really sink in until they go elsewhere and go, oh, ouch. I just put my hand on the hot stove and that burned. I'm going to go back to and listen now. And then they sort of might be more open to listening. But the frustrating part for me is you need to let them have that experience, and then they might be more open to.
But I think that's a good thing. Yeah, I think so. I definitely think it's one of those things where it's it's definitely you need to learn by doing, and sometimes that is letting the client go, hey, and the other thing is it's not no one wants to under-deliver. To be clear, I wanted the website to be fully functioning, bug-free, seamless user experience. Of course, that's what I want, the best outcome for the client. I want you to be making in, loads of money, everything to be working correctly. But when you're really hamstrung by a budget problem, then the output problem is also a problem. Every business works in a resource-restrained environment, whether that be capital, whether that be time, whether that be skill set, whatever that is, right? It really highlighted to me the importance of being ruthless around what needs to get done. And there's a lot of artificial deadlines and things. Those projects that, when they got briefed in that case was 2 months earlier, or that particular task. Well, there's other stuff that came up before, after that was a priority. But
of course,
documentation will save your life every time.
But it won't necessarily keep the client at that stage.
No,
I mean, I'm thinking of another situation I had quite recently, actually, where I was talking to I think they were a psychology practice, and they're wanting to rebrand, or just like get a refresh more so. And they're talking to me about, whether they needed a brand manager for that or not.
Do you run a brand refresh project?
Well, that was the thing. In the first instance, I was confused about what they meant by brand manager because, to us, that's an internal person. Like a brand manager is not an external consultant.
Not usually, no.
No, so I had to ascertain that at first. I'm like, oh, brand manager. And I was talking to him. I'm like, 15 minutes later, I'm realizing, oh, you mean an external, like, branding consultant to run a project for you. They were very very focused on cash in this conversation. And I'm like, but you're going to hire an internal brand manager? So I had to work that out first. And anyway, as part of that conversation, I was trying to get some sort of idea of the scope. And I was trying. And
so you're having like discovery conversations with them going,
this is an initial conversation. Yeah, it got to the stage where, it was wide open, the scope for what was going to be needed, right? I had no idea what they needed at this point. We hadn't trimmed it down much, and that's okay. That might not be doable in the first conversation, but you have more to figure that out.
Yeah.
And I said that, and she was like, what do you think it'll cost, though? I said, I have absolutely no idea.
Oh, the instant quote.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I said, I have absolutely no idea from what you've said. This is the how long's a piece of string part of the conversation. It seemed like maybe 10, 15 minutes before that I was getting somewhere. And then it kind of went to this stage at the end. She said, well, if you can't give me a number, don't see the point in having another conversation. If you can't have another conversation, I can't give you a number. But yeah, I remember saying, like, I definitely cannot, and I'm not comfortable with putting a number out there that I cannot stand behind or will not stand behind. Like, we're not even... The scope was wildly... Like, it could be like a logo design. It could be an entire brand refresh with signage and everything. Like, this is the...
You need to work that out.
This is the two ends of the spectrums this could be.
Totally.
I just... In that case, I just let that go.
Yeah, as an opportunity? Or wasn't it?
Yeah. I'm not gonna keep pursuing that.
Well, it's interesting because, if you didn't do that discovery piece, and which didn't happen, but if you hadn't done that and you put a number behind it and it doesn't match that number, either you're eating the cost because you said, hey, it's 1,000, well, however much it is, and they go, yep, we'll take it, and you're like, you can't deliver in that time, or it's not to what they want. Yeah. That reminds me of another client that I had was... it was someone I worked for at the time, and we had hired an external partner agency to do a part of our marketing, right? The great thing about the agency was they were so meticulous in the scoping. We're like, hey, we need to do X, we need to do designs for these, we need copyright for that, and then we need to implement it into your email, and this is how it's going to look. At each stage, it was consultative, right? So it was like, this is the outcome, these are the steps involved. Do you agree to that? Like, that's, yep, cool, great. Then they do the initial sort of, here's the skeleton or framework about how this is going to go, and here's the initial concept. It was, for context, it was email design and SMS and having that integrated with our website and stuff. And so they do the flow diagram. Then they would do like an example of this is what email 1's going to look like, 1 point, etc. And do you agree on that? Yes. Sign off. And what would be interesting is every point they would be, we may have just got off a meeting and gone, green light, looks good, we've approved the copy. They would email after and go, hi Ben, could you please put in writing and confirm that you agree with like phase 2 of their process? And, in writing, you're like, yes, I agree. The designs look good, we can go to the next stage, right? And each stage they would do that. I had previously worked agency side, and so I appreciated their thoroughness. I appreciated the logical steps for the scope discovery and the milestones and deliverables of that, right? What was frustrating to my one of my colleagues at the time was wanted to make changes after that stuff had been done. Like, we got to the final stage. So this is like designs have been done there. It's and we're just signing off. It's just kind of like last check before they go build it and put it into the email system is, I think this should be over here, or that should say this, or that photo should be. And it's like, or maybe the SMS should go here. We had like 3 milestones hurdles that we already like approved. The colleague said to me, he's like, I don't like how this agency's they're always so formal and proper. I was like, how else do you expect it to be? Like around like the scope. And what I identified on like later projects with this colleague, it was they didn't actually like the fact that they couldn't change their mind after. It was like the sign off that point had already passed, before. If you had an opinion, the opinion was 2 weeks ago, before I typed, before we reviewed it and we gave it a green light to get through. So that was one of the things where it's like, always document and note everything especially when working like even internally, right? Like if this is with an external vendor in that circumstance, but even internally, you have a meeting. Hey, Jack, thanks for the meeting about blah, blah, blah. As agreed, we will do this, just so you got the old CYA, cover your ass memorandum in paper trail. So if anything comes back, it's like, hey, why didn't this thing get done? Well, here's my CYA email. It was approved and greenlit by you, and we discussed it.
Here's the proof.
Here's the proof.
But do you have any instant quote stories for us? I love them.
I worked at a company a long time ago where it was I worked in like a digital role, and this person worked on the sales team, right? And so like just a bit of context, like the sales team, they sell mainly, like they're very human. You're always on the phone, they're talking to their clients, talking to the customer. Everything's manual, like they're drafting up an invoice and putting it together, and they're typing out everything, even though the email content they may have sent 50 times. There's no like copy paste. There's no templates. It's just kind of like do it manually and do that. With that in mind, it's like I come from a digital background and technology where I'm like, how can we automate it? How can I build like copy paste clipboard where like I have shortcuts for all my raw fundamentals of emails and streamline stuff, so I'm not typing stuff again, sharing a booking link, etc. They'd come to me and gone, hey Ben, I've got this idea. Like everyone works in marketing, right? But it was an example of, they wanted a website where it had like a brochure of our products. When you click on the image, it kind of customer could have their iPad and go, hey, look at the product, and they could download the specifications of, hey, this fits this size and it comes in this grade and it's this much and this is what it looks like, etc. He comes over to my desk and he asked me, hey Ben, how do I want to build like a brochure website and have these things. It's like, how long would that take? And I was just like, oh, look, need to get it estimated. I haven't, the IT, this department handles the development. This person does design. We may need a photographer to get like the product shots that we don't have yet. And then it probably needs a bit of design here and then development. Look, I really don't know. I'd need to have like a chat to those specialists to find out. And he goes, oh, this is just a bit of a side pot conversation, but like roughly how many hours and how much would it cost? And I was like, dude, I'm not a developer. I'm not a designer. I'm not a copywriter. I'm not a photographer. Like, I don't know. Like, if it was me, 20 hours, like, similar to your point around that lady with the discovery, it's like, I don't know, 20 hours, 20, 50 hours, 100, like, I'm not sure what it would take. I know it would take, I don't know, like, no idea. Like, because you can get someone to do it overseas for $15. Like, it just depends on what the actual outcome is. But that was like one of the cases where in that moment they wanted a kind of quote that they could kind of just take back to the boss and go, hey boss, do you have approval for this? And so that's one of the things where I just like, I needed to go, hey, you need to tell me what you need. The more I had the conversation with him, like as it went on, probably like just under half an hour, I just identified that he actually generally like did not know the parts or components involved and what information he would need to even supply. So that's what I walked away with. I said, hey, if you provide this information, I can do the next step and kind of provide an estimate, but I couldn't tell you. I couldn't.
Did you ever get that information?
Yes.
Oh, you did?
Yes.
Oh, that's not the ending to the story I was expecting.
No. So it took a while to get it. But I am still waiting on the rest of the project. No. I don't work at that business anymore, but that was something that never got off the ground in my time there.
There you go.
But that is definitely a thing of instant quote, and if it's online and marketing, you know how to work it out. I think us marketers and tech people kind of get grouped in together.
Yeah, anything digital, right, mate? You can do. You can
or marketing.
Program
or email, write
design,
develop, build an app. And how long will it take? Tomorrow.
Give me till the end of the day. Yeah. I'm a marketer.
Yeah.
I do it all.
Yes.
Amazing to have you on another episode, Ben, of the podcast. Thank
Likewise.
you for taking time to speak to us today, sharing some stories. It was good fun. What's some places people can find you?
If I'm in two places, primarily I am on LinkedIn. That's Ben Reeves, Reeves, Reeves. If you know Keanu or Christopher, same spelling, not related, or benreeves.co, benreeves.co. Check out my website and get in touch if you want to talk marketing, digital strategy, or e-commerce.
Awesome. Thank you, Ben. Thanks for being here, man. Cheers.
Ciao.